Hello, our dear beloved readers. Are you ready for a shock? Tonight, we won't just be reading a story. We're going to be living in the eye of the storm with Diep and James. If you thought part 1 was breathless enough, buckle up, because part 2 will push the boundaries of fear and love to their absolute limit. She bravely faced the danger, plunging into the darkness to find her husband. But what awaited Diep wasn't a warm embrace, but a blood-soaked confrontation. Gunshots tore through the night, and Long the Black's truck barreled toward her like a phantom of death. Amidst the devastating ambush, Diep suddenly realized the wrenching pain wasn't just fear. It was labor setting and right under fire. A wounded James struggled to reach her. Officer Lee fought desperately, and Diep's face contorted in agony as their tiny life demanded to enter the world between the lines of life and death. Can James and Diep reunite and protect their child when the lives of their entire family hang by a thread? Who will survive? Who will fall? And can the baby be born safely on this night of hell? This is the moment everything you've been waiting for explodes, hit like immediately to lend strength to James and Diep. And make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single second of action when the next part is revealed. Their fate is in your hands. The evening descended upon the village like a soft blanket of ash. The air was thick with silence, heavy as if the very ground was holding its breath. Inside the small house, Diep, with her heavily pregnant belly, folded the last piece of clothing. The zipper rattled softly in her trembling hand, a small sound that contained the whole approaching storm. She paused, placing her palm on the gentle curve of her pregnancy. "My child," she whispered, her voice lost to fear. "Be strong for Mommy. We will find your father. James, the husband she loved so fiercely, the man she'd promised forever to." Their wedding felt so fresh, the vows, the laughter, and his own shaking hands holding hers. Now she had to pack a suitcase to cross the border by herself. She wasn't just packing clothes. She was carefully folding a fragile sliver of hope into a worn canvas bag, facing a future she dared not imagine. Just as Diep reached for the door handle, the roar of a motorbike engine ripped through the silence of the night. Her dog Don barked frantically, running back and forth as if trying to warn of danger. Diep's heart hammered painfully in her chest. She rushed out into the yard. A young man, dust covering his shirt, sweat dripping from his brow, braked hard and practically leaped off the seat. "Ms. Diep, there's news." News from the border. Diep's stomach plummeted. She felt her blood run cold. The young man thrust a crumpled piece of paper into her hand. Her fingers shook violently as she unfolded it. There was only one line. "A Vietnamese man named James has been admitted to the provincial hospital. Identity is currently unconfirmed." Her eyes blurred. The ground swayed beneath her feet. It might not be him. The young man hastily added his voice, laced with anxiety. "They aren't sure, Ms. Diep. It could be a mistake." But panic had already surged into her chest, drowning out every steady breath. The baby in her womb kicked unexpectedly, fearfully, as if it too sensed the danger. Diep pressed a hand to her belly and sank to her knees. "I have to go," she whispered, suppressing a sob. "He is my husband. He can't be alone." The young man hesitated, his worried gaze sweeping over her pregnant stomach. Ms. Diep, the road is very long, and in your condition, she lifted her head, her eyes no longer showing fear, but replaced by a cold iron resolve. There is no road harder than not knowing if your husband is alive or not. Her voice contained no anger, only a painful, undeniable truth. What happened to James at the border? Why was he hospitalized with an unknown identity? The old bus shrieked, rattling violently as it climbed the narrow, steep mountain passes, heading straight for the border. Each hard jolt sent a sharp pain into Diep's lower abdomen, reminding her of the tiny life traveling with her. She pressed one hand tightly against her side, the other gripping the strap of her bag, trying to take deep breaths to the rhythm of the engine's wheezing. Beside her, a gentle, widowed, elderly woman noticed Diep's uncontrollable trembling. "Are you all right, dear?" the old woman asked softly, her voice warm like a lullaby. Diep gave a weak nod, forcing a smile. "I will be once I find my husband," the old woman quietly repeated, as if speaking to herself. "Husband? Then you must go, no matter the cost." A wife's heart always knows where her man should return. Tears welled up in Diep's eyes, but she fought them back. Crying now was a weakness. She had to be strong, for James and for the baby. Outside, the endless fields stretched out green and yellow, blurred by fear and hope. Diep knew she was going against all common sense, but for her, it was the only path. Suddenly, the old phone in her bag vibrated. An unfamiliar number with no caller ID. Diep hesitated. She had turned off her phone since leaving home, not wanting anyone to stop her. She glanced at the old woman, then bit her lip and decided to answer. "Hello." Her voice was hoarse with anxiety. On the other end, a deep, strange man's voice echoed. "Is this Ms. Diep? We know you are looking for James." Diep's heart hammered. "Who is this James? How is he?" "He's fine. But you know crossing the border isn't easy. He owes us a little favor." Diep's body tensed. "What does he owe you?" "Not much." The voice was cold. "Just a transportation fee and the hospital costs." "How much?" Diep's throat went dry. 50 million dong. Transfer the money to this account immediately before you reach the hospital. Otherwise, he won't be able to leave. 50 million. That was the entire savings the couple had for the baby's futures. I need to see him first. I need confirmation that he is safe. Diep almost screamed. The voice sneered. "You don't have time to bargain, Ms. Diep. You're on the bus, aren't you? We see you. Decide quickly. He's waiting." He sees her. A chill ran down her spine. The bus stopped at a small, dusty gas station. Diep had to get off the bus to think. She only had 5 minutes. Transfer the money or keep going. If she transferred the money, she risked losing everything, and James could still vanish. If she didn't transfer it, he could be in danger. As she stood in confusion, the phone vibrated again. This time, it was a text message. Unknown text. "Do not send the money. That hospital is a trap. They are not a real hospital. Get off at the next stop immediately." Diep stared at the screen. A trap. She looked around. People were rushing to fill up gas and buy snacks. Who sent this message? A friend of James Orr. Another scammer trying to take advantage. My dear, the bus is about to leave, the old woman said, stepping off the bus after Diep. She looked straight into Diep's eyes, her gaze deep with experience. Sometimes the straight road is not the fastest path, Diep suddenly realized. The first text demanded money. The second warned of a trap. The person demanding money knew her location. The second person was trying to save her. Diep turned to the vendor. Ma'am, how far is it to the town with the provincial hospital? About 3 hours away, dear, but the road is very bad. 3 hours, that was the time she had to decide the fate of James and her child. Diep got back on the bus. As the bus started moving, she pressed the callback button for the first mysterious number. I won't send the money, she said firmly. I will come to the hospital. But if I find out this is a scam, or if he is harmed, I swear I will call the border police. You don't want to escalate things. The other end was silent for a moment, then a cold beep sounded. Diep let out a sigh of relief, but her heart still pounded like a drum. She'd taken a shortcut, but she had also just declared war on a mysterious force. Was the provincial hospital truly a trap as warned? If not a hospital, where was James being held? Diep stood frozen just after her passport was stamped. The harsh sunlight at the border checkpoint made her vision waver, but it was Officer Ly's voice on the phone that made her tremble. Stop, don't cross, listen to me carefully. The voice of Ly, the man with whom she had once faced danger, sounded urgent. Diep gripped the phone, her palms slick with sweat. Officer, please, tell me what's happening. Is it James? Ly took a deep breath, the sound clearly audible over the line. The man in the hospital. It's not your husband. Crash. Diep's heart felt like it plummeted to the ground. Her knees almost buckled. Well, what? But they sent me his name. It was a mix-up. The man was carrying a piece of paper with your address, but he is not James. Diep gasped, clamping a hand over her mouth, trying to choke back the sob. All the recklessness, all the pain of the bumpy bus ride, all the fear. It was all for a stranger. Ly's voice softened, yet remained tense. And deep before the man passed out again, he said one thing. Diep's voice was a shaky whisper. What did he say? He said, James helped me. He saved me. If anything happens, go find his wife. Tears immediately welled up in Diep's eyes. The crushing pain was replaced by an intense, indescribable surge of hope. So that means James. Ly spoke firmly, but with palpable relief in his voice. Your husband is not in the hospital because James is on his way home. Diep hung up, her world spinning. Her passport was stamped. The road to Cambodia was open. But one phone call had shattered everything she thought she knew. James is coming home. If the man in the hospital wasn't James, then who was he? Who used James's name and why? And more importantly, why did he carry her address? Diep turned her head to look back at the line of people waiting. She couldn't cross the border anymore. She had to turn back. The border officer looked at her suspiciously. Ms. Diep, you're not crossing. I changed my mind. Diep stammered. There's an emergency at home. She quickly left the checkpoint, finding a hidden corner to call Officer Ly back. Officer Ly, what happened? That man. Why did he say James saved him? Diep whispered. Ly explained quickly, his voice lowered. He was a guide. James hired him to get back, but they were pursued. It seems James did something very dangerous over there. When they were caught, James helped the guide escape and gave him your address to make sure you were warned. He was the sacrificial lamb James sent to distract the enemy. James is being hunted deep. You are not safe here. The enemy who is chasing him. Diep felt the blood run cold in her veins. We are investigating, but it's the man James defeated before he left. They want James back, or they want revenge. Diep, listen to me, Ly said seriously. You have to go home immediately. But don't go to your old house. James's enemies must have that address. Go to Mrs. Huyen's house, or somewhere safe. I will get there as soon as possible. Diep looked down at her pregnant belly. She felt utterly exhausted, but fear had completely replaced the pain. James was coming back. She had to prepare. Yes, officer, she said. I will go to Mrs. Huyen's house. When Diep caught the bus back, she was no longer the panicked wife blindly searching. She had become a mother, racing against time and an invisible danger. She looked out the window. Sunset had begun painting the road she had just traveled red. She suddenly remembered the words of the widowed old woman. A wife's heart always knows where her man should return. But the story wasn't just about returning. It was about surviving the force searching for James. Diep placed her hand on her stomach and told herself, my child, your father is coming back, but your mother must be ready to fight. Now the journey home was more dangerous than the journey to find him. The bus brought Diep back to the old town, but she felt no familiarity. Everything was covered by a chilling fog of latent danger. It was completely dark. Diep went straight to Mrs. Huyen's house, avoiding her own home. Every step was heavy, not only from physical burden, but from nervous tension. She felt like she was being watched, a cold sensation running down her spine. Not paranoia, but the survival instinct of a mother. Mrs. Huyen, seeing Diep return without James, paled with fear. But when Diep quickly recounted the phone call from Officer Ly and the warning about the trap, her anxiety turned into action. Get inside. Diep, don't turn on the lights, Mrs. Huyen whispered, carefully locking the door. She immediately pulled Ly into her arms, comforting the little girl, while simultaneously gathering essential items. Officer Ly says James is on his way back, but the enemy is chasing him. Diep said, her voice hoarse. The enemy, like the people who did that to you before. Mrs. Huyen asked, her hand trembling as she poured Diep a glass of water. Diep nodded. Maybe worse. This time, they want revenge. They sat together in the darkness waiting. Every small sound outside, a dry leaf, falling, a distant dog barking, made their hearts leap. In that dark night, Mrs. Huyen's small house was no longer a sanctuary. It was a makeshift bunker, and they were awaiting an invisible attack. Officer Ly arrived around midnight without a siren, without lights. He parked his car 2 streets away and sneaked into Mrs. Huyen's house. Diep, it's a good thing you believed me. Ly said, his face grave. I checked on the man in the hospital. he was brutally beaten. He is Thang, a small-time guide, not a gang member. He confirmed he was forced to make that ransom call to you. So who called me before? The one demanding 50 million, Diep asked. That was Muoy, a henchman of Min Scar, James's old enemy. James used to work with Min, but then he betrayed him, providing evidence to expose Min's smuggling ring to protect you and nay. James cost him millions of dollars and put him in prison. Lee explained. Diep gasped. Min Scar is out of jail. No. But his younger brother, Long, the Black, has taken over. Long wants revenge for his brother. He knew James had returned to tie up loose ends before settling down with you. Lee pulled out a blurred photo. It was Long, the Black's face, cold, his eyes sharp as daggers. Long sent people to monitor James's every move. When James sent Thang to the hospital as bait, Long seized the opportunity to lure you out of the house. But why is James coming home now? Diep asked, still not fully grasping the situation. Thang said James bought a safer route, but it takes longer. He calculated that if he moved fast, he would reach your house around dawn. Hearing James was near Diep felt a mix of joy and terror. We can't wait here, Lee declared. If Long the Black knows James is returning, he'll block every entrance to the town. James will never reach the old house. We have to go intercept him. How? Diep asked. I know a secret trail through the forest. It's the only path James could use without being detected. You have to come with me. Mrs. Huyen hugged Nye tightly, tears in her eyes. No, Diep. You're pregnant. This is a trap. No, Mrs. Huyen. Diep, said her voice full of resolve. James is risking his life to return to me and his child. I can't leave him out there alone. She knelt down, hugging Nye one last time. Nye, awake, rubbed her eyes and looked at her. Where are you going again, Aunt Diep? I'm going to get Uncle James, Diep whispered. You stay here with Mrs. Huyen. I promise I'll bring him home. This time, we won't be separated again. Diep and Officer Lee left in his old pickup truck. They drove deep into the darkness of the rural roads, without headlights, relying only on the faint moonlight. After nearly an hour of tense driving, Lee pulled over. The trail starts here, Lee said. You have to walk about half a kilometer. I'll go ahead. Diep stepped out of the truck, feeling the cold night wind rush into her face. The pain in her abdomen returned stronger than before. She clenched her fist. James was out there. She had to keep going. As they began to venture deeper into the forest, Lee stopped abruptly, holding up his hand for a signal. Someone's here. Lee drew his gun, aiming forward. Diep held her breath, listening. Quiet, hurried footsteps, not of a fleeing guide, but of a squad of people lurking. They knew, Lee growled. Long the Black cut off the route, and then the gunshots rang out. A bullet grazed the branch right above Diep's head, raining a shower of dry leaves onto her hair. Diep screamed, not out of fear, but because of a sudden searing contraction in her lower abdomen. Lee, watch out. Diep tried to call out, stay put, don't move. Lee responded, falling back and opening fire in return. Diep, trapped in the line of fire, felt everything spinning. She couldn't help Lee. But she knew James was close. She scrambled backward, leaning against a tree trunk. She looked up the trail. In the distance, through the thick darkness, a shadowy figure appeared. It was James. He was running wounded, but running toward her. James! Diep screamed, trying to cut through the gunfire. He saw her. Their eyes met, a moment of reunion, violently interrupted by the roar of a truck hurtling straight onto the trail. Long, the black had arrived. The showdown between a trap and a birth. It all began with a shocked text message from the border. Her husband, James, the man she had promised forever to, was found wounded at a Cambodian hospital. Diep, clutching a crying Nye and carrying their unborn life, packed her world into a worn canvas bag. She overcame her fear, her physical pain, and the judgment of the entire village to rush headlong onto the road of death. On the bumpy bus ride, Diep almost fell victim to a mysterious ransom plot. The stranger demanded 50 million dong to release James. However, another warning message revealed that hospital was a trap. Diep had to stand alone, declaring war on that invisible criminal force. At the crucial moment, as Diep stood under the harsh sunlight at the border checkpoint, her passport, already stamped a phone call, changed everything. Officer Ly, the only person she trusted, roared over the phone, "Stop, don't cross." And Frale fought on Enival for us. The truth was revealed. The man in the hospital was not James. He was just a sacrificial lamb. James sent, carrying a final message. "James saved me. He's on his way home." Diep now stood on a razor's edge. Ahead was the dangerous, deceitful road to Cambodia. Behind was the terrifying promise that James was returning and bringing the enemy seeking ultimate revenge with him. Everything had changed. She was no longer the seeker. She was the fugitive. The most dramatic question: could Diep make it back to the old house before James's enemy, Long the Black, caught her? She couldn't. James's enemy, Long the Black, knew Diep had left the old house and ambushed her and Officer Ly right on the trail that Ly believed was safe. Diep is now on the run, facing a drawn gun and imminent labor alongside Officer Ly.
Thank you.